I promised last week that I would do a top speed test on what I call the X15, so let's just do it. You're in it right now. We're pedaling. Okay, so the assist is tied to the power level. There really is no assist, it's just throttle. Let's see what it does. To do a proper speed test, I needed a quiet, flat stretch of road. Right at about 84 volts. I've got the GPS on the GoPro running, using a little bit thicker helmet today, so we'll just give it full throttle. 3, 2, 1, go. Well, there you have it. I think the screen was reading about 47, but I had the GoPro GPS going, so hopefully that will give us an accurate GPS reading as a backup. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because I have some other cool stuff to show you besides just the top speed on this bike. There's some things that, now that I've ridden it around for a little bit, I actually rode it home, rode it back to work. I've been using it so I can get a good feel for it. So you may have noticed that there are two versions of the bike. The one that I was just on has these moped tires and rims. And the reason I did the top speed test on that one is because these tires are clearly rated for more speed than your average fat bike tire. So why are there two different versions of the bike? Of course, I like fat tire bikes and they're awesome because they can go everywhere, they're comfortable. So for this fat tire version, if you want something where you can ride everywhere, you can go in the sand, you can go on the snow, you can go on gravel roads, if you're gonna do a lot of fire roads, that sort of thing, I could see that the fat tires like this would be a better choice. But if you're gonna do more street riding and a little bit of gravel, then I would probably go for these tires. Now let's talk about the power that these bikes actually have, because I haven't told you yet how much power they have. They both have the same motor, they've got the same battery, and it is a 5,000 watt direct drive rear hub motor. Now normally a direct drive motor would not have a lot of torque, but it'd be better for cruising or top end speeds, so you have an idea of how much power it has on the top end, but there's plenty of torque on the low end. Once you start going above 3,000 watts, there is way more than enough torque to carry you up and over any hill. And that's one of the interesting things about this bike is that, yes, it can go super fast, but when I rode it home and back to my house, which to give you an idea of how far that is and what the elevation is like, it's about 11.5 miles from my house to the shop, and it's about 1,800 feet in elevation up to get here. And I wanted to make sure, even though this has a massive battery, that I was gonna get here. So I didn't go full throttle the entire way here. Because the speed can be limited by the settings, what would normally be the pedal assist settings, I used that to kind of monitor my power. So right on the display here, you've got the assist, we've got a 1 through 5. So if you turn it to a 1, it's gonna go like less than 10 miles an hour. So fairly slow speed. If you turn it to 2, that's gonna bump it up to 20, 25 miles an hour on flat ground. And if you bump it up to 3, then it was more like 30 miles an hour, but around the 25 mile an hour mark going uphill. For most of the way here to conserve power, I cranked it up to 3. I was able to use full throttle and I wasn't pedaling at all, to be honest, because I was going too fast for the pedaling motion to do anything. But I was able to cruise along 25 miles an hour uphill and know that I was easily going to make it all the way to work and have plenty of battery power left over. I find that that's helpful if you put somebody newer on this bike. You can turn it down to a lower setting. Say, here, try it out, leave it on 2 or 3, whatever you think they'd be comfortable with, and have them go for a ride. Now, for those that think these are gonna be just totally insane power-wise, they can be, but one of the things that I kind of fell in love with was the fact that they could be tamed down. Because they have this nice big seat on here, I was actually able to sit towards the back a little bit, put my 6-year-old or my 8-year-old on the front. We both had our feet on the pedals because they're these nice wide platform pedals. I turned the power down to 1 or 2, and I let them use the throttle and drive me around. And it was a lot of fun being able to experience riding on this with my kids and kind of teach them how to ride basically what would be a motorcycle. And that was a lot of fun. That was one of the things that I loved about it that wasn't a powerful feature. It was just fun. It was nice being able to do this with my kids. And of course, I was riding with my 6-year-old daughter, and I felt like there was a little bump in power. I had it in 2 for both of them, and I looked at the screen and it had been turned up to 3. And I said, hey, did you turn up the power? Just 1 click. Like I said, it's a 5,000 watt direct drive rear hub motor. And then the battery is a 72 volt, 30 amp hour battery. You can see on the screen right here, we've got 80.17 volts. They're gonna sit right around 84 volts with a full charge. This is a pretty powerful battery. That's how these things go as fast as they do. They have 7 speeds, but below 20 miles an hour is really about the only range you can use them. And the seating position, at least with this style of seat, is not that great for pedaling. If you kind of scoot back, you can get a decent leg extension. You can pedal them, and they're geared nice and low. You've got a very small sprocket up front. Very nice components, by the way. You've got a SRAM bottom bracket, front sprocket, nice cranks, nice pedals, and then we've got the SRAM 7-speed derailleur in the back. We've got, of course, the matching SRAM components up here. The brakes are from Textro. These are the same 4-piston brakes that we've got on the higher end 1,000 watt Warthog. The same 4-piston brakes that we've got on the Raptor, as well as the new Blackbird. So you're gonna see these brakes more and more often because they're very reasonably priced, they're powerful. Even at the speeds this thing goes at, they are more than capable. The suspension is from D&M. Now we have 2 different forks. This is a D&M USD 8, and then we have a USD 6 over on the fat bike. We have to go with a wider fork for the fat bike model, of course, because fat tire would not fit over here. So some very slight differences between these bikes. The main differences are gonna be the wheels with the tires that are on them. The front fork is different on the fat tire version to accommodate the wider wheel and wider hub. And the last 2 things, the controller is mounted on the outside of this bike for a little bit more cooling, a little bit more performance. I feel like you could push this bike a little bit harder. This one's more of a flat black, and we have a gloss black on the frame of the fat tire bike. Other than that, they are exactly the same. Now, a couple other features that are useful, especially if you're using this like a moped, you have lights. On the handlebars, there's the headlight switch that turns on a nice bright front headlight. And then on the back, we also have a functioning brake light. Now this is pretty cool because if you pull the brakes, it functions. Not only that, we've got turn signals, left and right. And then if you need to tell someone to get out of the way because they think you're a slow bicycle, you have a horn. The sounds do not stop there. So a few more functions than you'd normally find on a bike. And the last one comes with these keys. Now these don't actually plug in anywhere on the bike, and you can get on this bike and ride it without the keys to a point. So let's say I ride this like a moped to the store and I park it outside in a parking space like you would a motorcycle, instead of parking it in a bike rack and trying to lock it up. Well, with this guy right here, you can press the lock button and now it has an alarm set. Let me show you what happens if you try to ride the bike away once the alarm is set. Now I've got the keys on me. Let's say somebody comes up to your bike, they hop on it, and they try and pedal it away. This is what's gonna happen. Not only does it make a bunch of racket, which is really loud, but look what happens when I try to pedal. The motor locks up completely. And then of course I can unlock it with the keys. But I think that's pretty cool, is it makes a bunch of racket and the motor, the controller actually basically stops the motor from running so somebody can't ride it away. And then of course we can just unlock it to turn that back off. Charge port for the bike is right on the top here. It comes with a 5 amp charger. It's a 30 amp hour battery, so if you manage to kill it all the way, it would take about 6 hours to charge it back up. Although I have not done a range test specifically on this bike, I've seen similar bikes with the same capacity of battery go about 40 miles on a mix of varied terrain using just throttle, no pedaling at all. So 40 miles is definitely possible, depending on how much you're using the throttle. Normally I'd say it depends on how much you use the throttle and how much you pedal, but because you can really only effectively pedal under 20 miles an hour, and this goes so much faster than that, it really comes down to how much are you going to use the throttle, and the pedaling is more for an emergency backup or to pretend like you're pedaling in areas where this may or may not be legal on the road. Currently, the most expensive bikes we have online are the Raptor, which is on pre-order for about $4,500, and the mid-drive dual battery Warthog, which is on pre-order for about the same price. Now for comparison, those bikes have the same motor, they have about 1,500 watts peak, and the Warthog with the bigger battery would be a 48 volt, 30 amp hour battery. This is a 72 volt, 30 amp hour battery, so the capacity is much greater. We've got 5,000 watts instead of 1,500 watts. There's really no comparison with the power that these guys have to the other bikes, but obviously they need to be a little bit more expensive because a battery that size costs more. I'm gonna put them online for $59.99, so right under the $6,000 price point. I know that's expensive. Some of you are probably saying, you could buy a motorcycle for that. And to be honest, yes, you could. But this to me is not a motorcycle. This is a hybrid between a bicycle and a motorcycle. I feel like you can ride this on-road, you can ride it off-road. This is something where you can have a lot of fun with it. You can cruise around throttle only in different areas, but then you can still take it off-road on trails where a motorcycle might be too noisy or too loud, and this can go there. I definitely want to get more riding footage with both of these bikes in the near future, but for now, I promised I would get the top speed video out. So here it is. Now you guys know exactly how fast this bike can go. Thanks again for watching another video from Bolton e-bikes. I do appreciate everybody that's watching. If you are not subscribed, which there's an 85% chance that you aren't, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I often give away t-shirts, parts, bikes, who knows what. I'll be back for another video next week.